So hello, welcome to the last session before the break. So my name is Giuseppe, and I'm a product manager at Vewd. I'm going to talk about hybrid TV around the globe. So this presentation is going to mostly be in like a very quick overview of the status of the different hybrid TV efforts around the globe. Of course, if you're interested to know more details, then pick me up after the presentation and we can dive into each of them. Briefly about Vewd before we jump into the presentation. So Vewd is a global technology company. We provide software for smart TV and set-top box vendors. The name Vewd is pretty new because originally we actually come from Opera Software, the browser vendor. So we've been part of Opera since the beginning in the early 2000s. And basically we were the B2B arm of Opera, licensing the same technology to smart TV vendors or set-top box vendors, right? So we've been the first to launch a smart TV together with Philips. We were in the Nintendo Wii, so we're the browser there and so on. So just recently in 2016, because of a reorg of Opera Software, the company was spun out, and so we became basically an independent company, 200-ish people globally, working with the same customer, working in the same space as before. So what is hybrid TV? Hybrid TV is the combination of broadcast TV, traditional broadcast TV sent through, I don't know, digital terrestrial antenna or a satellite, and the internet, basically, the internet delivered content. And the ability to combine these two channels on a TV set. So why should someone deliver a hybrid TV service? Why a broadcaster, for example, should deliver a hybrid TV service? So it basically allows you to get the best of both worlds. So from one side, you have the reliability and the scalability of a one-way medium, like it is broadcast TV, so one-to-many channel. At the same time, that one-to-many channel is the same for everyone, right? So with the internet connectivity, you can get personalization, for example, different ads to different people. You can get catch-up. You can get the ability to add additional stream or additional content on top of a regular TV, right? So these are the main reasons why across the years, in the last 2 decades, broadcasters have been looking at enhancing their traditional service with hybrid TV. Across the globe, there have been different initiatives trying to address the needs of broadcasters that want to deploy hybrid TV. So we have HbbTV, which is mostly it started as a European effort and it's been expanding also in some other regions, as we will see soon. There is ATSC3 here in the US and also in South Korea. You have Jinga in Latin America, and you have Hybridcast in Japan. These are all different efforts, although they have some commonalities. But one thing that is coming up as a common technology that all these different standards are referencing is web technologies, in particular HTML5, and also, streaming protocol like Dash, right? So all of them, although they are coming from different, let's say, history and direction, they all started to converge towards using the web technology to power the interactivity on top of the broadcast channel. So let's start with HbbTV then. So HbbTV started in 2009 in Europe, right? And mostly in France and Germany, the first services were deployed. And then from there, it expanded in other regions as well, in other countries. It adds an interactivity layer on top of an existing broadcast channel. So HbbTV does not disrupt nor change the regular broadcasting streaming. That means if you have a TV that doesn't have HbbTV, you just keep watching your regular TV and that's fine, right? So if you have an HbbTV device, though, then you can get that additional layer of personalization and interactivity on top of your regular channel. The main target for HbbTV is actually the home environment and the TV set, right? Is not targeting use cases outside of the home. But there is a support for interactivity with other devices, companion screen, how it's referred to. But mainly, the use case is still around having the TV as a central hub of interactivity and then interacting also with other devices as a companion to the TV set. It's a voluntary standard, so there is no mandate to implement or to support HbbTV, but things have slightly starting to change. There are some discussion in Europe, at least in some countries, about considering mandating part of all of the HbbTV standard in the future, right? So nothing is decided yet, but it's just conversation starting by the regulatory authority in different countries. So as I said, it started in Europe, but now spread it to most of Europe, basically, with a few exceptions. Most of the blue countries are the ones that actually have regular services, and the one like in light blue are more countries that are either trialing with it, experimenting with it, considering it, right? As natural, because this is basically based or started in DVB countries, all the countries that already had DVB for digital broadcast, they naturally adopted HbbTV or were experimenting with HbbTV. That's why you see Australia there as well, South Africa and so on. So what's happening today in HbbTV? What are the main discussion points? So one, technology which was actually standardized in 2017, but now it's starting to see the first deployment. It's HbbTV operator app. So Op app is basically a technology that allows an HbbTV app, a little bit of a special HbbTV app, to serve as a virtual set-top box, right? So you can launch this app on the TV, and that basically will take over the UI of the TV and act as a set-top box without actually having the physical set-top box there connected. Of course, it requires some agreement between the manufacturer and the operator. The same technology can also be used on a set-top box itself, so that you have kind of a common software stack, a common UI, a common experience across your set-top box, but also across retail TV sets. Then dynamic ad replacement, another big topic in many countries and in many regions. So there have been already some trials of dynamic ad replacement. So basically, replacing a live ad on broadcast TV with a personalized ad coming over broadband. So there's been some tests already in Europe, but those tests have shown that both the potential but also the limitation of the current HbbTV spec, and that's why the group is now working to expand and to address some of those limitations in terms of seamless switch between broadcast and broadband, or limitation in terms of buffering of the ad before the ad replacement happens, right? The work is ongoing, it's still not being published, so it's something we will see maybe during this year or next year. Third thing is application discovering over broadband. It's basically the ability for a TV that doesn't get information about what app is available for this channel to actually start an application regardless of the signaling, right? So it might be the use case where you have a set-top box connected to the TV, so you only have an HDMI cable. So the TV will still be able to discover what app is associated to that channel and start it. Also there is some spec is already being published, and some new work is going on to expand the use cases that can be covered for this particular technology. And then, in general, there is a discussion now ongoing inside HbbTV to what should HbbTV do in the next, let's say, 5 years, right? So the discussion just started among members to discuss a 5-year roadmap plan on what kind of technology and use cases are important for broadcasters in the next few years, and so what should HbbTV do to address those? So going now to ATSC3. So ATSC3 started a little bit later than HbbTV in 2013, but it also has a much wider scope than HbbTV. So while HbbTV was focusing on just adding interactivity on top of the existing broadcast channel, ATSC3 is trying to basically rewrite things from scratch, from the hardware level up to the interactivity and the TV screen, right? So it's a much more comprehensive effort. So it's also, it's not only targeting TV sets like HbbTV, but it's targeting any device. So in-home and out-of-home. So also being able to watch TV on a tablet, on a mobile phone when you're walking around, when you're traveling, and so on. Also ATSC3, it's a voluntary standard, so there is no mandate to include an ATSC3 in it. There is no mandate to carry an ATSC3 or to broadcast an ATSC3 signal. It's still early days. Let's see how things progress. The deployments are happening so far. So the real live deployment happening in South Korea at the end of mid-2017, and especially in 2018 around the Olympics, and essentially to do UHD broadcasting on the terrestrial network. At the moment, there is regular operation of this technology, but it's limited in time. It's a few hours a day. But the plan is to expand that to cover 100% of the broadcast in the next 10 years or so. The interactivity part, at least the one that was deployed in 2018, was actually based on HbbTV and not on ATSC3. But I do think there is a plan to transition that into the full ATSC3 interactive stack. When it comes to the US, FCC has approved transmission in ATSC3. So there are several trials running, in particular 2 main ones in Dallas and in Phoenix are experimenting with the technology, trying both the broadcast part as well as the interactive part. And just today, I think I read an announcement that there is a plan to expand those trials to cover the 40 main TV markets in the US. So let's move to Japan now. So in Japan, there is a similar technology to HBTV, which is called hybrid cast. So when I say similar, it means it has more or less the same kind of architecture in terms of signaling and launching of the app, of the broadcast app, and the same approach, so adding interactivity on top of an existing broadcast channel. It's starting to get some adoptions, or there's a growing number of manufacturers that are adding hybrid cast support. They have been adding hybrid cast support in the last few years, and also a growing number of broadcasters which have launched either like in production mode, regular operation, or in trial mode, their services. When it comes to, let's say, next year, next generation hybrid cast, the focus seems to be at the moment in adding support for 8K UHD TV, and also to improve the interactivity possibility with the handset. Finally, let's go to South America and Ginga. So Ginga is an extension or like an evolution of the hybrid cast, or of the Japanese ISDB T standard. So it started from there and then expanded it to optimize it or to cover the use cases of the Latin America broadcaster, and that included an interactivity framework. So the original framework did not use web technology, but basically allowed two types of interactivity or two types of programming languages. One called NCL, it's the derivative of XHTML, and another is like Java. But recently, last year, the Ginga group added also support for HTML5, something they call Ginga HTML5. And they also added the ability for native application on the TV, think of, a Samsung application or an Android application, to talk with a Ginga application through an API that is exposed by the TV, by the middleware, basically. So that allows basically even to leverage existing application on smart TVs, but then to talk to the broadcast application signaled and launched through the regular TV channel. So to conclude, what are some of the lessons learned during the last 10 or maybe 20 years of experimentation with the hybrid TV? One thing is that getting a global standard is difficult and probably is impossible, and maybe is not even needed, because each country have different needs, different priorities. There are a lot of reasons why it's really difficult to establish a global TV standard. That said, thanks to the convergence of the web world with the TV broadcast world, there is naturally like a convergence, at least in the OTT part of this hybrid TV stack, right? Everybody seems to be looking at HTML5 to alter the application, Dash for streaming. So there is a lot of commonality there that are being exploited, and that's naturally bringing some convergence. The second thing is, hybrid TV is not a new concept. It's probably been floating around since the 80s or the 90s. It's just been very difficult to justify, especially for commercial broadcaster, like a huge investment in these areas. So the business model is important, right? So technology is nice for us technologists, but it's important to find a viable way, something can justify investment on top of a regular, let's say, TV service. And now with some, let's say, deployment around addressable advertising, audience measurement, and so on. So this use case seems to start to resonate a little bit better and maybe show some potentials for hybrid TV also from a commercial point of view. It's also important that broadcasters move, because if there are no services, there is no interest, let's say, now advantage for the end consumer, then it's very difficult also for the manufacturer to justify investment in these areas. So especially if we start to talk about addressable TV, addressable advertising, the need to actually, for example, buffer video, that has an impact on cost for the manufacturer. And so there must be a discussion, there must be really a need for that technology to be deployed in a way to recover that cost. Otherwise, it's a little bit different for the CE industry to put that investment in bringing to market the hybrid TV. And finally, a lot of consumers, or like a growing number of consumers, start to be concerned about also privacy when it comes to hybrid TV, because traditionally TV was a one-way medium, so privacy by design in a sense. But now that the TV is getting connected, it's not always obvious what are the implications of that to many consumers. And the one that do realize the implications start to ask for more transparency on what actually is happening with my data. And especially with GDPR in Europe, the requirement also for the manufacturers and for the broadcasters start to be a little bit more tight. So it's important to be really clear on what actually is happening and what, so to make sure that we don't let it scary, let's say, the viewers and the consumers, and that we can build a healthy ecosystem for everyone involved. So that's it when it comes to, again, a very quick overview. I'm happy to take calls off the stage, and we also have a booth just 1 minute from here. So if you have more questions, you want to see demos or anything, you're happy to come by and we can have a chat. So thanks everyone, and enjoy the break.